It's part 2 of our guide to happiness. In part 1, the last video, we covered what is happiness and where does it come from. And now we're going to cover the top 10 tips for getting a bit more happiness into your life. And let's face it, who couldn't do with a little bit more happiness right now? Top tip number 1, gratitude. Studies show that we tend to be more happy if we look at what we've got going for us and we are genuinely grateful for what we've got. Everybody's got good things going for them and not so good things going for them, and sometimes we can get focused on the negatives. So why not take a minute and just actually think about all the good things you've got going for you and start to actually acknowledge them and try and fill your head with the positives rather than the negatives. Top 10 tip number 2 is savouring. Now, sometimes we have a tendency to focus on the negative things in our lives, and even when we're doing something that's pleasant or enjoyable, our mind's not in it because we're worrying about something else. So when you are doing something that's fun or enjoyable, like eating a nice meal with good company, or spending time with friends or loved ones, or just going for a nice walk in the sunshine somewhere lovely like in the park or whatever, just try and mentally soak it in, savour it, enjoy it, get the most enjoyment out of it that you can. People who really kind of live in the moment and make the most of those times tend to be happier than people who are constantly thinking about the next bad thing that's going to happen, or worrying or anxiety about other things going on in the mind. When you're doing something that's good, enjoy it. Number 3, helping other people. There's a lot of research at the moment that shows that when you actually do something for somebody else, there's a lot of positive benefits for you as an individual. You will feel better about yourself. It will give you that sense of purpose, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of value because you have made a positive contribution to somebody else's life, help them through a problem or a difficult time. So try and think about ways that you can help other people. And in doing so, you'll be helping yourself. Number 4, cultivate positive relationships. And what we mean by that is friends and family, people close to you. We are social animals, human beings, and we get a lot of benefits from interacting with other people. Okay, it's not necessarily a good thing for you to spend all your time on your own. I know that's difficult at the moment in self-isolation, but try and look for ways you can cultivate positive relationships. And what we mean by that is relationships with people that are a good relationship, that benefit you and the other person. Who are the people that are good for you? And try and support and maintain and build on your contact with those people who are good for you. And even in social isolation now, you can still call people, you can text people, you can email people, you can Zoom people and see them face to face. Do whatever you need to do, but try and support and build and develop those relationships because they will help you feel better about yourself and life in general. Number 5, exercise. I know you didn't want to hear it, and I know I've said it before. In fact, we've got a whole video on staying active in self-isolation. I'll put the link at the end. But exercise is proven to be very good, not just for your physical self, but for your mental well-being as well. So get moving. Number 6, focus on intrinsic values. Now all that means is, we talked about this a little bit in the last video, is focus on the internal stuff, on your self-fulfillment, on your personal development, on your close personal relationships, not the extrinsic things, which is stuff essentially, clothes, gadgets, money, fame, recognition, all those things. They're very enticing, but all the research seems to show that if you get hooked on that, it's not going to bring you any long-term satisfaction. You cannot buy happiness from Amazon. Trust me, I've looked. Number 7, do not compare yourself to other people. Now this is easier said than done because happiness essentially is relative. It's not an absolute measure. We tend to relate our situation to what else is going on around us. So we feel we're doing okay in comparison to the people we can see around us. If we're doing better than them, we tend to feel we're all right. If we're worse than them, we tend to feel we're doing not so well. The key to this is to either not do it, just get on with your own life and don't worry about what everybody else is doing. they've got their own problems you're probably not aware of. Or widen your perspective. If you really want to compare yourself to other people, look on a global scale. The mere fact if you've got access to running water or an indoor toilet means you are in one of the top 50% of the human race as far as lucky. So count your blessings, okay? But generally, don't get hooked into that all comparing yourself to other people or keeping up with the Joneses. It's not going to help you. Number 8, look for flow activities. Now, a flow activity is anything that takes your full attention, your full concentration. You enjoy doing it, but you feel fairly relaxed when you're doing it as well. You feel in control of it. So it can be anything. It can be a sport, it can be a hobby, it can be meditation, anything you like. It can be playing a musical instrument. As long as it fulfills that criteria where you're completely involved, completely engaged with it, you're fairly relaxed, but it's the kind of activity where you lose track of time because you're so absorbed in it. Okay? Studies show those kind of activities are very, very good for your mental well-being and will help you feel better about yourself. In fact, some of the research where they've taken flow activities away from people has shown it's really bad for you not to have those kind of activities. So try and find some flow activities and dedicate some of your time to them. You won't regret it. Number 9, develop a growth mindset. Again, we talked about this on the previous video, but essentially there is a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset, people who think that way tend to think that everything is set in stone. That's just the way it is. You can't do anything about it. Tough, okay? People with a growth mindset, though, have a tendency to think about, well, you know, this is what we're in, but what can we do about it? How can I get stronger? How can I learn more? How can I change things around me and actually improve my lot in life? A growth mindset is much more productive and much better for your mental well-being. And if you have it, you will be happier. Number 10 on our top 10 tips to happiness is, if you can't change your situation, then accept it. Now that might seem a bit brutal and a bit simplistic, but what it means is, essentially we're getting into stoicism, is sometimes we fill our heads with anxiety about if onlys. If only I was taller or shorter or older or younger or richer or poorer, I don't know. But some things we can change, and that's part of that growth mindset, and some things we've just got to get our heads around are part of our world that we live in, and we've got to accept that. Now then, we're going to talk about this in a bit more detail on an upcoming video about stoicism, but essentially we all have to accept there are only two things we really have control of: what we think and what we do. The rest of the world essentially is doing their own thing and you have very little control over it. So worrying about how you can control every aspect of your life other than what you think and what you do is like worrying about the weather. You can't really do anything about it. You've just got to deal with it. And the quicker we get our heads around that, when bad things happen, the more resilient we are to deal with them, and then we'll bounce back a lot stronger. And that long term will help you stay in a better frame of mind and hopefully happier. So there we have it, top 10 tips to staying happy. I hope you found those interesting. We did race through them at a rate, so I'll put some links in the text below to some other videos if you want to find out a bit more about some of those subjects. But trust me, there's some hard science behind most, if not all of those things, and they do work, but you do need to commit to them and put a bit of practice into them. They're not going to just work like that. Hopefully that was of benefit and use to you. Until the next video, stay safe and